Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Regan Rant for March the 22nd, 2010. And today I want to talk about the 5 worst wrestling games of all time. And since I've been doing this database, the wrestling game database, I've pretty much played every single wrestling game that's ever been released on any system. And if the games that I didn't have originally, I went out, paid my own hard money, went to eBay and downloaded those games so I could play them and get images and media for you. And I'm proud to say that unless there's like one or two, maybe there's 1 or 2 games in there that we don't have images for, but out of 365 games, 367 games in total, as you can see, it's definitely a work of love for my part because two games out of 367 not having images or movies for it, that's pretty good. The first game that I want to talk about, number 5, is Muscle for the NES, developed by Bandy Entertainment, released in 1986. And basically, what can I say about this game that's probably already been said? It's a pretty bad game by any stretch of imagination. The graphics, even considering the time period, are still not very good, and even the music and the gameplay itself is just not a very satisfying experience. Very disappointing because I kind of love, I love Muscle. I mean, I used to collect the little Muscle figures, and I loved it to death. The Aki the GameCube game of Muscle. So definitely a very big disappointment for you. Number 4. Number 4 is WWF Betrayal. What else can be said about this game as well is that it's basically you take a wrestling game, put wrestlers in it, but take the ring out and have it like a side-scrolling fighting game. It just didn't work out. With 4 characters, you had The Undertaker, you had Triple H, you had Stone Cold, and you had The Rock. And unfortunately, it just wasn't a very good game. Developed by Way Forward, published by THQ, of course, and that was released 2001. As you can see from the videos that's playing behind me, it just wasn't a very good experience. It really wasn't. I mean, it just all the enemies basically looked the same. Each wrestler had that one finishing move, but basically it was just a repetitive mess. All right, number 3. Number 3 is Legends of Wrestling, developed by Acclaim for the Game Boy Advance in 2002. While the Legends of Wrestling series itself, that was released for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube and among other systems, wasn't the perfect wrestling. It wasn't the best wrestling, but it certainly had its merits. I did enjoy those games. I didn't give the highest review. In fact, I think I gave it a pretty mediocre review, if I recall correctly. But then again, it was basically a mediocre experience. But this one was really disappointing for the Game Boy Advance. And just graphically wise, it was a mess. All the wrestlers looked the same. The controls wasn't responsive at all. It was just unfortunately it was a very forgettable wrestling game, and I really honestly couldn't recommend it for anyone, to be honest. All right, number 2. Number 2 is a most recent game, TNA Impact, that was released for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, Nintendo Wii. Well, I recognized what Midway was trying to do with the game. It definitely felt like a very different product than SmackDown. Graphically, it was a very strong title. It even looks good on the PlayStation 2 and the Wii. But when it comes to a wrestling game and developing a wrestling experience, the game was lacking, unfortunately. It didn't have the best roster, for one. That was one thing. It didn't have the best match types. And that's another. Just basically, it was just disappointing. I recognized for what it was, and for a first wrestling game, and I could see where it could be a starting point for a great series. But unfortunately, way in the doubt, TNA Impact was just one game, and based on that merits, it just wasn't very good. Number 1. Number 1 is WCW Thunder for the Sony PlayStation. Developed by THQ, released in 1998, back when WCW was a shit in wrestling. But unfortunately, WCW Thunder and its predecessor WCW Nitro was just the shit. It just wasn't good. Really, the best thing about the whole entire game, to be honest, perfectly honest here, was the little mini rants that the guys did when you at the character select screen. I mean, you have a horse as the characters, you have a starfish. I mean, and in the gameplay, it was just horrible. I mean, it could have been more unresponsive if you had actually unplugged your controller from the system and started playing the game. I mean, it was that bad. And like I said, I couldn't recommend this game for anyone. In fact, I recommend what we all do is take our copies of WCW Thunder, put it in a time capsule, put a note warning the future generations who are making wrestling games and aliens or whoever comes across this time capsule to stay away from making games like this shitty caliber. It was bad, really, really bad, and in fact, I'm doing some videos for you so you can take a look at how exactly bad it really is, because it was horrible, horrible. All right, that's it for another edition of the Regan Rant. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed talking about it. Be sure to send me an email. My email address is mike@gamingring.com. I do welcome your comments, suggestions, or questions. Feel free to send them to me. I do appreciate them. And be sure to check back here at gamingring.com for another edition of the Regan Rant and all the other great content we have. We have the Gamecast, we have the WrestleCast, we have columns, we have reviews, we have news, we have articles. Everything you'd want if you're a wrestling game fan / video game fan. So we're the one-stop source. So anyway, thank you. Peace.
You know, I tricked you before, I'm going to trick you again, but this time the torture is going to last longer on the Hollywood Walk of Shame.